The fact that Melania Trump is all over the Epstein files is now becoming a very big issue for her in federal court in New York. Melania has removed the civil lawsuit filed against her by Donald Trump's former biographer, Michael Wolff, from New York state court to federal court, and she's asking a New York federal court judge to transfer the case to a Florida federal court judge. I guess she's hoping to get Judge Eileen Cannon or somebody in Florida, and she's claiming that she does not live in New York City. She claims she lives in Mar-a-Lago. She's been avoiding service as Michael Wolff sued her and has tried to serve her, and she's been arguing in front of a federal judge. I haven't been served, so the case should be dismissed. And in any event, the case should be moved to Florida because that's truly where I live and not in New York. Michael Wolff, you will recall, sued Melania in New York State court saying he's from New York, she's from New York, thus it belongs in New York State court. She goes, nope, federal court under something called diversity jurisdiction. I won't get all complicated on the term, but if you're from different states and the damages being claimed is above $75,000, the case can go and be removed to federal court. Then she's saying, let's transfer it to Florida. She just wants delay, delay, delay. Remember, she threatened to sue Michael Wolff for $1 billion if he didn't retract statements about her regarding his allegations about her and Epstein and Ghislaine. And then on the day that she said, I'm going to sue you, Michael Wolff sued her under a statute called the Anti-SLAPP Statute of New York, saying that she's infringing on his First Amendment rights to report on her. He's been trying to serve her with the lawsuit. She avoided it. That's when she ran to federal court for this delay tactic. So how are the Epstein files impacting this lawsuit and her desire to transfer this case to Florida? Michael Wolff is saying, we need discovery on the Epstein files now. We need to explore your relationships because you are mentioned in the Epstein files on multiple occasions. And that also evidences the fact that you lived in New York then. Also, look at your social media posts, Melania. You refer to New York City as your home. So that's really where you live, not Florida. The fact that you have a driver's license and an address at Mar-a-Lago, that's just part of a scheme, Michael Wolff alleges, to claim that you're there in Florida, but you're really in New York. Barron's in New York. All of your workers are in New York. And throughout the movie Melania, you're always in New York. And it seems that New York is where you really live. Let's just take a look at the filing right here where it references the Epstein files. This is from Michael Wolff's lawyers, and Michael Wolff is saying this case should stay in New York State court. Remand it, bring it from federal court back to New York State court where it belongs because they're both citizens of New York, and definitely don't send this case to Florida because this is a New York case. So here is what Michael Wolff says in this declaration through his lawyer. Many of the emails and other materials now emerging from the Epstein files show New York City-centered contacts between the Trumps, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Epstein and related associates. Pause there. One of the interesting things is that Melania was threatening to sue Michael Wolff, saying she never had communications with Ghislaine and she doesn't know anything about this. But in the Epstein files, Ghislaine refers to Melania as Sweet Pea. Melania refers to Ghislaine as G. Melania praises the New York Magazine article where Ghislaine is photographed and Jeffrey Epstein is in there, and Donald says that Epstein likes women on the younger side and that Epstein's a great, incredible guy. So that was all in the email. So Melania, how are you going to sue him for defamation when you were in those files? In my opinion, I'm giving you this is First Amendment protected opinion speech, right? This video is first, let me be clear, it's First Amendment protected opinion speech. I've given you all the disclaimers. I'm giving you my opinion right here. I believe it's pretty grotesque the way Melania is mentioned. It's just interesting that the MAGAs want to depose Hillary Clinton, who's not in the files once, but maybe Melania needs to go before the House Oversight Committee as well. Here's what Michael Wolff writes in his court filing. He says how, for example, see attached Exhibit B, is an email from Mrs. Trump to Ghislaine Maxwell asking Maxwell to give her a call when Maxwell gets back to New York. In another, Maxwell refers to Mrs. Trump, Melania, as Sweet Pea. And FBI 302 discussed Epstein and Zampoli's efforts to buy elite models. It notes Epstein introduced Melania Trump to Donald Trump, which is what Melania threatened to sue Michael Wolff about. But in the files itself, an FBI 302 report literally says Epstein introduced Melania to Donald Trump. Now, Melania says that's not what actually happened. It was Paolo Zampoli, who had his own modeling agency where he brought in European girls to party with rich New Yorkers at the Kit Kat Club at these various events. And it was Zampoli who made the introduction. And, look, I suppose what Wolff is arguing, again, my opinion is that this was the crew. This whole crew hung out together. So these were all modeling agencies of these, of these rich guys. And this is just what they do. This is what they did. And then Wolff goes, it's manifestly clear that most of the witnesses and sources of information and documents surrounding Trump's activities pertain to these things that can be found in New York. I do find it interesting, too, that Wolff is using the Melania documentary against her. And he's like, I've seen the Melania documentary, and if you watch it, you'll see that it's centered in New York. She talks about even the Melania documentary and the public behavior of the Trumps gives strong indication of her deliberate independence and separateness from Donald Trump, it goes on to say. And then it talks about, in any event, we should have discovery and have Melania sit for a deposition where we can ask Melania about what's going on so that we can speak with Melania and find out, and ask her these very, very, very important questions.
So this is an important news story that's not getting nearly enough attention, so let me interrupt for just 1 minute. Donald Trump's war on clean energy has already canceled or delayed enough electricity to power more than 13 million homes. I want you to think about that. And this is, of course, at a time when electricity bills are skyrocketing for families across the country. Here's the data. Under Trump's watch, 335 clean energy projects have been canceled, delayed, or stripped of funding. These are wind and solar projects that experts agree are the cheapest and fastest way to add power to the grid and lower costs. Instead, Trump is deliberately blocking them, slowing federal approvals, and piling on red tape while making it easier and cheaper for oil, gas, and coal companies to operate. I mean, the Trump administration literally just announced a new mascot to promote coal that they're calling Coley. You can't make this stuff up. The New York Times reports that dozens of large wind and solar projects are now effectively dead because of this permitting blockade. One major wind farm in Wyoming that could have powered hundreds of thousands of homes was scrapped entirely after federal reviews were stalled for months. And what's especially telling? More than half of the canceled projects are in Republican-held districts, including red states like Nevada, which gets about a third of its electricity from solar. Even MAGA voters support expanding solar power, but Trump and Republicans are prioritizing big oil donors instead. And the result is less power, higher bills, and more pollution, and it's all by design. There is no justification for this, and it's setting the United States way back. And now this is important right here. I want to hear what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what your electricity bills look like these days. Let me know your thoughts on these climate segments. I would love to hear from you, and it's so important that we continue to make noise about this. Okay, Ben, back to you.
Let's pull up this full declaration right here, right? Let's just go through what it is that Michael Wolff's lawyers are saying. They go on to talk about Mrs. Trump's substantial contacts, activities, and ties to New York, that they've been continuous, systematic, and central to her life since she arrived in New York on a B-1, B-2 visa on August 27, 1996. Some of the ties, activities, and contacts enumerated here are based on public records, some on news reports, and some made on public statements from Mrs. Trump. And one of those public statements, again, they post her social media. She's arguing New York City is not my home. And here's what she posted on August 27, 2024. New York City captivated my heart the moment I arrived 28 years ago today. This electrifying town isn't just my home. It's a colorful canvas where dreams come alive. New York's iconic skyline and vibrant culture inspires me every day. Then in her speech at Madison Square Garden on October 27, 2024, which she speaks at, she says, "This is my hometown. Good evening, New York City. Hello, Madison Square Garden. Our hometown where architectural symbols of strength, courage, and unity create a canvas for the world's undisputed capital of industry." Here was that October 27, 2024 speech, so you can hear it for yourself. Let's play it.
Good evening, New York City. Hello, Madison Square Garden. Our hometown, where architectural symbols of strength, courage, and unity create a canvas for the world's undisputed capital of industry.
Then it goes on to talk about the Epstein file emails. The contacts and activities described are a representative selection of materials available. And if they do not dispositively confirm that Melania is from New York and lives in New York, they firmly warrant at a minimum a fair and reasonable opportunity to conduct discovery. After all, she's saying it's her hometown. And it goes on to say, it goes into some pretty fascinating details right here. Like it says, Mrs. Trump owns her own separate apartment building within Trump Tower. She's in room 33H, they say, whereas Donald Trump is on the 66th floor penthouse. She doesn't like to go to this. She doesn't like to be with Trump on the 66th floor. She prefers her own room. And it says Barron has his own room in the Trump Tower as well. And her friends and other people show up and hang out in that. The doorman at Trump Tower confirmed to the process server that this is where Melania Trump lived, but she was refusing to accept service. So they've got statements from the doorman. Barron lives there. Barron goes to NYU. It talks about. It says Mrs. Trump's father, Victor, he lives in an apartment in New York City, if not also in Trump Tower. I mean, they did some good investigative work right here. Her publisher from Skyhorse Publishing, all of her friends and people who work with her are there. Herve Pierre, that fashion designer who's always around her. Karen Pasternak, her assistant, is New York. Nicole Beryl, the makeup artist, is in New York. The hairstylist is in New York. Thom Kakenlam, the decorator, is in New York. Mark Beckham and his wife Alice, their closest friends who are all over the Melania documentary, they're in New York. Michael Wilds, the immigration lawyer, is in New York. Warren Tricome, the manicurist, is in New York. Larry Rosenthal, her dentist, is in New York. Her doctors are in New York. Her posts say she's from New York. The Melania documentary, where she has final cut approval, deployed a dedicated production crew in New York City. They used the Melania documentary, which was a total disaster, to say, why else would they have a New York City crew if she wasn't living in New York? Then it talks about how, she showed up to Palm Springs for a little bit of time, but that seemed to be more of a short stop where she was. And from the movie, they said it's clear that she spends the majority of her time in New York. They're using the Melania documentary as evidence against her. And they're like, okay, she claims she has a driver's license in Florida. That's not dispositive. She probably just got a driver's license. And who knows? Is there a broader issue here, which is, I don't know, again, opinion, First Amendment speech. Let me give that disclaimer one more freaking time, okay? I'm giving you my First Amendment speech. That is she saying she lives in Florida so she doesn't have to pay state income tax, right? It's obviously higher in New York. Is that part of what she's doing? We know the Trumps don't like to pay taxes. I don't know. Let me be clear. I don't know, but this has opened up a can of worms, and the Epstein files specifically are a major part. Let's look at these Epstein emails right here. You pull open over here. First off, you have Melania's address in the Epstein files. Her email address right here, Melania K. Melania at, that's the email that's redacted. This is her information in the black book. Dear G, how are you? Nice story about Epstein in New York Mag. You look great. I know you're very busy flying over the world. How was Palm Beach? I cannot wait to go down. Give me a call when you're back in New York. Now look, obviously that's 2002. So we could say, well, she may have moved in 2017 to Mar-a-Lago and she claims that's her address. People don't see her in Mar-a-Lago from what my understanding is. Like people in the Palm Beach community don't see Melania there. And then Ghislaine Maxwell says, sweet pea, thank you for your message. Actually, plans change again, and I'm now on my way back to New York. I leave again on Friday, so I still do not think I have time to see you, sadly. I will try to call again. They're planning to meet up in New York, so the Epstein files being used there in this case. I find that fascinating. I find that interesting. What do you find that? We'll keep you apprised every step of the way, but that's good lawyering. Will Melania have to sit for Here's my question. Has Melania opened up the door for her to have a deposition of her over Epstein file stuff now by filing this case? And let's just talk about the merits of the case. Again, I'm giving you my opinion. How are you going to sue Michael Wolff when you're in these files, like in those ways? I mean, not a good look to say the New York Magazine article was a good article and call her G and she calls you Sweet Pea and you say you like her photo and that Jeffrey Epstein, he was great in that article. That's the article, I believe, where they said where Trump said he likes girls on the younger side. The hell? Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million. Thanks for watching.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.